To our video for today. Just so you know, these come out on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Be sure to catch them. Today, we are talking about failed launches, okay? What happens when I don't make the money that I'm looking for? It doesn't work the way that I wanted it to work. What do I do next, okay? So first of all, number one, we need to change our mindset, okay? Before we can even jump into how to fix the problem, you have to change your language and not call it a failure. If you continue to call your launches a failed launch versus something that you needed to test or tweak or adjust, or like, what's the lesson? What I want you to get in the habit of doing is forget the mistake, learn the lesson. Okay, forget the mistake, learn the lesson. If you are to be a successful entrepreneur, it always starts with your mindset, right? So if you focus on it being a failure, then you go into fixing the problem already defeated with less motivation, half-ass doing things. Okay, so that's number one. Okay, make sure you're changing your language to saying, okay, how do I optimize or improve my next launch? Okay. All right. So then once we've gotten our mindset in check, right, which is an ongoing, some things you might have to say every single day. The thing that I want you to then focus on is understanding your conversion points, right? When you understand your conversion points, then you know what to fix within your launch, right? So I'm going to walk you through 4 simple ones, and I will tell you that this gets very complex depending on your specific launch and your audience and all these different features, but these 4 steps should help you to understand what to fix right now. Okay. So here's number 1. The first conversion point that you need to look at within your own launch is how many people landed on your page, right? And when I say your page, I'm talking about your opt-in page, right? Most of us are using landing pages in order to collect people's emails for whatever it is that you were launching, right? So typically when you're launching something, there's a whole marketing campaign around it. Maybe you're doing webinars, maybe you're doing a challenge, maybe you're doing, a series of soap opera sequences that lead people to a specific outcome or a specific page. The point is they're landing on a page where they can opt into something, okay? So the first thing that you want to look at is how many people landed on that page, okay? What's your numbers? Okay. The second thing that you want to look at is how many people actually opted in, right? What is your conversion rate for the number of people that opt in? Again, what's your numbers? Okay. The third thing that you want to look at is your show up rate. We might also call this the open rate. Okay. I'm going to add that on here so you know that depending on what you're doing, it might not be a show up rate. So let's say you're doing a challenge. Okay, that would be a show up rate. If you're doing a webinar, that would be a show up rate. If you're doing more of a soap opera sequence where you're sending emails every day, that would be more of an open rate, meaning how many people are opening your emails. Okay, either one. The point is, what's your numbers? Okay. The last one is the close. So let's say you pitched on a webinar, okay, and you got 4 people to sign up for whatever it is that you're offering. Okay, you need to know your numbers, okay? And by knowing each one of these numbers, it shows you where you need to fix your particular problem. And I talked about this on the last video that we did a couple of days ago. Again, we do these videos twice a week, so you can look at the last one. The last one was about launching and where people's launches typically fail. It's typically in the planning phase. Why? Because the biggest problem that we tend to see with people that are new, again, everybody's in a different place in their business, but when we're talking about first-time launches or you're in the first or second year of your business, the problem that we see more times than not is this place. You don't even have enough people who've landed on your landing page for you to ever meet your revenue goal. Okay. So what you want to get in the habit of doing is understanding these numbers and making sure that you have 10 times the number of leads, right? And really the 10 times goes here. Okay. But you want to have at least 10 times the number of opt-ins. So let me give you an example of what I mean. Okay. Let's say you had, let me get my handy dandy marker out here. Let's say we had 1,000 people who landed on our page. Okay. We're going to talk about why 1,000 people is really not too much. I know a lot of times when we're newer, we're only wanting 5 or 10, maybe 15, 20 people to opt into our thing. And we're like, well, if I only want 5 people, why the hell do I need 1,000 people to land on this page? I'm going to show you. Okay, so let's say we had 1,000 people who landed on our page. And out of the 1,000 people who landed, let's say 100 of them actually opted in for our challenge, our webinar, our freebie, whatever it is, right? Let's say that 50 people actually showed up to the webinar or the thing that we're doing, okay? Then let's say that 12 people bought something, okay? You got to look at each one of these numbers and determine, are they good conversions or not, and where you can afford to make some changes. So here, this is now a, let's do our math a little bit and get clear about what our conversion rates are across. So here, our conversion rate is 10%, right? Then here, our conversion, 50% show up rate. Then here, we're talking about 25%, I believe. Okay. Make sure I did my numbers right. Okay, right? So this is technically 12.5. Okay. So now you can decide, do I need to focus on my landing page because only 10% opted in and I want to get it up to 20%? That means I need to look at my messaging. If I only got 50% to show up to the webinar, is that industry standard, or is there a place for us to improve there? Same thing here. Depending on your numbers that you see here will help you determine what thing needs to be fixed. You do not have to scrap the whole launch. Focus on these numbers to determine, okay, I'm really going to focus on increasing my conversions here, or I'm really going to focus on increasing my conversions here, right? Understand what industry standard numbers are based on what you're doing, right? Industry standard numbers based on a webinar are different than a challenge and are different than a PDF, right? There are lots of different ways that we get people to convert, and you need to know what your numbers are based on what you're doing. Hopefully this was helpful. If so, share it with your friends, tag a business bestie, and of course, always drop your questions below. We'll see you next Tuesday or Thursday.